Welcome to the Jackson Rudolph podcast. I am your host, Jackson Rudolph, and this is episode 21, film study with the one and only Reid Presley. Reid is one of my longtime friends, one of my best friends from the martial arts circuit. We've been competing against each other and pushing each other for years now, so we're super duper excited to bring you this episode. We're going to watch some old sport karate film, break it down, and just give you guys some reactions. So we're really excited about it. I'm going to go ahead and bring Reid on right now. And Reid, how's it going tonight, man?
What's up, everybody? Doing pretty good. Can't complain. Staying busy as possible in quarantine, but taking it day by day.
Now, I know any of our listeners that follow you on social media have probably seen the fact that you sustained an injury relatively recently, had a broken arm, had surgery on that. So how's that healing and rehab process going for you?
It's healing pretty good. As far as the wrist goes, they implanted a titanium plate. So as the doctor says, it would have been really hard for me to mess it up further. But now I'm just trying to get my functionality. And if you can see on screen, I'm calling upon all the single ladies out there. So, you'll have to watch and see.
Anyway, so with that comment, we'll go ahead and move on. So what we're going to start with is when we do these film study sessions, what we start with is we always start with, and if you guys can hear that, that's Reid's dog Khaleesi barking in the background, but that's okay.
Just go let her in. She's like, it's raining outside. What's going on?
So anyway, so what we've done now, and I've upgraded from the last episode of film study that we did with that I did with Sammy Smith, and so now everything's on one playlist, so everything should play all the way through. And the tradition that I like to start with is whoever the guest is that's going to be breaking down the film with me, we've got to make sure that we watch some of their videos first. So tonight we're going to be starting with Reid Presley, 2005 Diamond Nationals. And before we start this video, Reid, if you just want to go ahead and set the stage, what's going on here?
Set the stage. Oh, man, going all the way back. Let me see what I think. I think this is Diamond Nationals is one of the first times that I had made it to runoffs. I believe the person who won this division was Corey Lutkus, if I remember correctly. I was 9 ? And I was just excited to be out there. And back then, I don't remember if I got nervous or what went through my head. I was just happy to be doing martial arts. So Jason built a form that was pretty in tune with music, because back then people still tried to match the music as much as possible. So while watching this, you can kind of see a few parts that were orchestrated a little bit. But, I think that sets it up a little bit.
Sweet. So we're going to go ahead and dive right into it. Now, I always affectionately refer to this form as the Stone Cold Crazy form, because that was the music that you used. We see Reid going at it with the Hakama here.
Oh, yeah. Bringing it back with the Kataginu across my shoulders, too.
Look at that front stance. Us.
Just watching the haircut. That's back when I could kick, too.
Throwing the kick combo. That's sick.
I think you'll notice when I do the palm spin, you'll see Mark Canizato in the background. I think he reacts.
That's awesome. A lot of emphasis on the forward strikes. I know. It's the choreography with the music right here. That's awesome. Highly recommend, because we're not playing music right now so that you guys can hear the audio clearly, but definitely recommend going back and watching some of these clips with the music, because some of the choreography is really good.
Yeah, see the part like I go like slow on the guitar riff, and I speed up, and it kind of like has like a good pace and peak as I go through the form. And Jason did a really good job of building this to match everything, and I'm just surprised that I was able to kick above my head. I forgot that was possible.
So at this time, this was all, and if for those of you that don't know, Reid and all of the Presley brothers' primary instructor has been Jason Warren for as long as they've been in the martial arts. So Reid, before we go ahead and we transition to this more recent clip from the Battle of Atlanta, I'm going to go ahead and pause this one. So at that stage in your career, 2005 Diamond Nationals, was Jason doing pretty much all of your choreography? Were you doing some of it? What was that relationship like?
I think at that time he was probably doing 99%, if not 100% of the choreography. I was just in that mold phase, I guess, where it's like whatever the instructor says, I'm like all in practice, and he says something, I had it changed by the next lesson. It was just kind of like that good little the orchestration between the two of us. Something that I want to point out when you go back and listen, something that I used to do, and I kind of still would do it in my intro moving forward, but everyone kind of did it. But at the end of my form when I was younger, I would always finish, be like, thank you, judges. I don't know why, but I was like, thanks for letting me perform for you. So just a little something different, I guess I did at the end of the form.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, that's old school. I remember you're right. A lot of people back in the day used to do that, and people don't really do it anymore. And then one thing, as I go ahead and get this new clip started, that a lot of people may not realize, because we are pretty close in age, but our junior careers actually didn't overlap very much at all. You had the that Stone Cold Crazy form was 2005. That's before I was ever competing in any NASCAR tournaments. And then you had an illness that actually took you out of competition. That's when I was competing as a junior. We really didn't get full seasons together until we had a couple in the teenage division. But really when we got up here to the adult division is where a lot of the people that are fans of the two of ours got to see those battles that we would have, my single bow against your double bow.
Absolutely. It's weird seeing me go from single bow to double bow, and I never watched my forms real thoroughly, and seeing some of the facial expressions that I'm making right now is kind of interesting. Really intense.
So you don't typically go back and watch your own forms, you're saying?
I try not to. When I do, I have to have the audio off because I'm one of those, I hate the sound. I hate my sound, and people say I sound like I'm straight out of Mortal Kombat with my yells, but I just watch it. Normally I don't want to say that I'm disappointed when I watch my forms, but I'm always so heavily critiquing it that I'm like, man, I could have done better right there. Mm-hmm. Like just what you just saw, little fumble coming out of that Magneto right there. I don't know if the judges saw it, but
Right. I actually don't remember it. And that's the other thing that I think a lot of people may not realize is as we go through the years, we don't necessarily remember who won what. Maybe U.S. Opens, Warrior Cups, Diamond Rings. But, most of the regular tournaments, we just go out there and we do our thing. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so the reason I wanted to rewind this is that's one thing, you keep a lot of concepts in your double bow form throughout the years. I know better than anybody because I've been the one with a front row seat watching, competing against it, analyzing it. But the last section of your double bow form is typically what has changed the most over the years. So I'm going to just replay it one more time. What strategy goes into that? And then like for this particular division, what would have warranted the particular ending that you did here? You mentioned you didn't catch it exactly like you wanted to, but regardless of that, right?
So with my double bow form, going back, working with Cold and working with Kalman, I felt like I started to perfect the formula of my first and second section. And then really that change from the end of the second section to the third was always the one that would vary. The double bow forms I did also would kind of, for lack of better words, have more of a building to it, to where I would want my climax, the highest point, to be like at the last thing that people would see, And one of my more known moves was the Magneto. So I'd always try to do something that would cater to that move. And then whether I would end right after it, which sometimes felt a little short, or would end with another move that just kind of accented it a little bit better. And then I don't believe I did it in 2018, but 2019, or towards the end of 2019, I changed the format of my form a little bit to add the X out that goes straight back, which allowed me to go more aggressively forward, which just kind of brought my energy to the judge's face to finish that third section strong. I think I always kept a variation of the Magneto or Twirly Bird in it, which is the variation where it spins around the other bow staff, because that was my consistent kind of like, we'll say Reid move, for lack of better words. Some people could recognize it, and the judges would recognize it, and then would have something that would accent that to finish off strong, whether I'm putting the bows on the ground or doing like a He-Man flex at the end,
Right, absolutely. And that's one thing that I think is an important lesson for a lot of our viewers that are, young competitors right now moving up and want to try to make a statement. If you watch mine and Reid's and Cole's and the forms that we've run against each other, I think that a common theme of ours as a group is to try to have that climax be right there at the end of the form, lead up to that big move, especially that signature move. Reid, you mentioned it's the magneto where you throw one bow out and pull it back with the other bow. For me, it's always been some variation of a Criss Angel, catching the ball in the back of my hand, catching it on a finger, right? And so you always want to try to get to your biggest move, your most difficult move, or your signature move. You always want to try to build up to that in a form. And so now we're going to kind of take a shift here, and kind of the first theme that I wanted to go through here, Reid, when I was planning what videos we were going to watch, was I wanted to kind of take a tour of some of the teams that you represented throughout your career. So the team that you were first most well-known for representing was Team AKA. Michael Guthrie on the last episode of the podcast mentioned the great Craig Henningsen as a big inspiration for him. So we're going to break down this 14-17 ISK US Open form from Craig Henningsen. I'm not exactly sure of what the year is. I think this is the year that he and Caitlin Deschelle may have gone head-to-head. You see him open up there with a huge Jesus.
And it says he's 17, but I don't think he's aged a day.
Right. If you see him today, he does look exactly alike, maybe some longer hair.
I mean, something that AKA has always done is have athletes and coaches and captains that are very clean with their hands, very solid basics. That has to come from John Sharkey or Sensei himself, something that you can always look for. They also built more dynamic hand combos. They paved the way for tricking in a lot of ways, as Guthrie mentioned with Craig. So, I mean, just all of these athletes have always been fantastic, and you can kind of see they just have a really well-rounded aspect about them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Craig was always a super fun one to watch. Obviously, we noticed the routine with the shirt off there. I remember, this is a funny story before we go ahead and we get into this Brendan Hewer form. The first time that I remember watching Reid do a form live was at AKA Grand Nationals. And this was Reid's comeback tournament. I mentioned he had an illness that had him out for a couple of years. He came back at Warrior Cup that year. And Reid, you ran a traditional bow form without a shirt on. Was that some AKA influence, or what inspired that?
I don't know. I was just coming back and was trying to think, what can I do to stand out right now? I was still in the beginning phases of training, and it was very spur of the moment. It wasn't planned. We didn't go to the tournament thinking, oh, I'm gonna take my shirt off or gi off and do a bow form. So now all the memories are coming back. We're just trying to figure out, okay, with the way that the seatings worked and everything, it's like, how can I try to stand out? If I go sooner, I'm not seated. And that was the idea that we came up with. And I just remember doing like push-ups and crunches in between the chairs, getting ready to go up there so I could get any kind of swole going on. But back then, I don't think I had a whole lot to work with. So but I tried.
That's awesome. Always trying to show it off, though. Be proud of what you got, right?
That's right. That's right.
But anyway, so now the reason that we move, again, staying within this kind of AKA theme, is that was the first team that Reid represented. Now we're moving on. I actually had an interesting conversation with a couple of other martial artists recently, and kind of the consensus was we were talking about like the greatest competitor of all time for a particular team. And for AKA, a lot of us settled on Brendan Hewer. So as we start this, Reid, what are kind of your thoughts on Brendan Hewer and his impact on sport karate history?
I saw Brendan Hewer. He was just one. I mentioned AKA brought well-rounded aspects, but something that he did is he was just well-rounded across the board completely. He would break out and do broadsword, double. I mean, just anything and everything. He was just well-versed, and I think you could say not only did he bring it to the sport karate, but he's just a phenomenal martial artist, even outside of sport karate, and that showed inside of his forms. And it just further adds value to the point of don't just be a sport karate athlete, be a martial artist, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I definitely want to go ahead and bring up, like you said, he was a great wushu athlete. I also want to bring attention to this pass right here. He walks into his corner pass, front handspring, or really a walkover going into the round off back handspring flash there. I mean, that's something that I had never seen before, and that's the type of style that Brendan brought, which was so impressive to me.
Yeah, you always want to do something that kind of makes not only the crowd, but the judges go like, wait, that's different. I kind of like that. Okay, he gets the edge. Because it gets to the point where you have so many phenomenal people competing in the finals that it really comes down to one moment that the judges will buy into in each person's form. So it's like, what can you do to create that one moment, that one move that you do that stands out?
And that goes back to what we were talking about at the end of the form, right? Notice for Brendan, that corner pass was within the last 15 seconds of his form. You know what I mean? So always trying to highlight whatever that big thing is that sets you apart, that makes you different right there in the last section of the form. So now we're going to go ahead, we're going to shift. We're going to go to Reid's second team that he represented, formerly known as the Amerikick World Competition Team, now known as Top 10 USA. And as Reid and I are both competitors, I wanted to bring up, in my opinion, one of the best bow staff competitors of all time, certainly one of the most influential, and got a lot of his wins while representing the Amerikick World Competition Team. This is Corey Lutkus.
I think you can see where I got the inspiration for the red and black Hakama.
Now, you mentioned that runoff division that you were competing in that first video from Diamonds was against a younger version of Corey, right?
Yes, I believe so, if my memory still works.
Huge corkscrew to open there, love that. And then he just goes on with the rest of the form, just being a bow form.
And being able to pull that off, not only with a full-size bow staff, but being a full-size human at the same time.
Yeah, Corey's very tall. He's taller than me, and a lot of people in sport karate consider me tall.
I like to say some of those moves that you're seeing him do now, you still see people do, like the scooting back with the spear and all. I mean, just the body rolls and all the manipulations that he did has to stem from him and Nate and Ross and that kind of genre, that generation right there. I mean, just look at that.
And that throw he just did, people don't respect how difficult that was, especially back in 2009. You didn't see people doing forearm trap, pop over the shoulder, blind catches. I mean, that was just something you didn't see.
And then is the Scarecrow, is that something that he kind of maybe not innovated but made more well-known? Was he kind of the one that brought attention to that move, especially doing multiple times?
He's absolutely the one that popularized it. I mean, Nate Andrade is the godfather of all bow staff body rolls. So I assume that he probably may have played a pretty big role in making that up. We need to do a little bit of research. I don't know if Nate and Corey ever collaborated on anything, but I'd be interested to know if they did, because you definitely see a lot of Nate's style in Corey's routines, which is interesting. And now what I want to bring up, this next video is 2011 Diamonds. And Reid, I'm just going to go ahead and throw the question out there because I'm sure you know the answer. Do you know what else happened in this particular men's overall weapons grand?
In this one?
In this particular 2011 Diamonds.
2011. Is this the blinded Kalmanchoka form?
This was the infamous blindfolded Kalmanchoka double sword form. And this division, it goes down in history as one of the greatest divisions in the history of sport karate because of the battle that everybody watched between Matt Emig and Kalmanchoka in this division. But this form doesn't get enough respect. Like, if it wasn't for Matt and Kalman, this is an overall grand championship, diamond ring caliber weapons form that Corey's about to do. And once again, this is back in 2011. You know, I was just starting to have success with single bow at this time. And Corey's out here doing crazy tricks. Even before I came along and popularized a lot of the tricks that I do, seeing the things that Corey did to lay the groundwork for guys like me and, you know, the guys coming up, your brother Jake, Ben Jones. I could name 100 great bow competitors that are out there right now in the juniors. But Corey definitely had a huge part in laying the groundwork for them. And another thing I respect before I let you give your take, Reid, is notice the improvement in Corey's strikes from 2009 to 2011. Like, he was an adult competitor working on trying to innovate new tricks. And here he is, his strikes significantly improved just in 2 years.
Yeah, and not only that, you're noticing some very solid stances, which I always tell people when you're tall, look at the stuff that he's doing right now. When you're tall, you have a make or break moment. Your stances can either look amazing or terrible because you have so much leg that you have to make sure that you're fully locked out because it's very easy to see what you do wrong. I mean, some of the things that he's doing in that form, I'm not even sure people have kept going. I mean, spinning it on the center of his shoulder blades and stuff like that. I mean, or I'm just not paying attention. But some of the stuff that you're seeing him do, it's amazing.
No, absolutely. And that's why I'm replaying it. I think we need to watch it again. And this time, just talk about the form itself and some of the tricks he's doing here, just the style that he has. So we're mentioning, I mean, and what I'm talking about in the improvement of these strikes is the extension. He has that really creative neck roll variation there, which I love. A lot of style on that circus, which is the move where the bow shoots off the shoulder. But the extension and the targeting difference over the course of those 2 years, I mean, it just goes to show you, how much attention to detail can really help you excel when you move up into a new age division.
And he's striking both sides. He's showing hip movement. He's really working his just how everything flows together, from stances to strike to extensions to where he's doing the tricks that he's doing. Left enough space for him to be able to do the flip, and then finishes at the front.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You can see the passion in there at the end of the form. I mean, again, this form in that division, it's easy for a form in that division to get forgotten because of how legendary that division was and because of what Kalman did. That form definitely deserves more respect. I think even Rudy Raynon may have been in that division as well. I mean, that division was stacked.
Yeah, and for the most part, most of them hit. I mean, Corey did, Kalman did, and I assume Matt did. So that alone puts a lot of pressure on those judges.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And last time we did the film study on the podcast, we actually watched and kind of ended that show with Kalman's iconic blindfolded double sword form, because that is probably the most iconic, most recognizable form that's ever been done in sport karate. But one thing that Kalman doesn't get enough respect for, and Kalman gets respect all the time, but one thing that he doesn't get enough respect for is that he did single sword in the ring. Like, he would beat everybody with a single sword form and then just do double sword on stage for fun. You know what I mean? To entertain people and to get tens on stage, which is something that I really, really respected from Kalman's career. So we'll break down this, which is one of his division grands forms from the Compete Nationals that same year, 2011.
I mean, it's just with Kalman, the things that you see from the intensity to, even if you just focus on his eyes, he's just so intense. He's so intent. He's so in the form, in the moment. You know that if there's people standing in front of that blade, he's cutting them, and then he seamlessly goes into his releases and doesn't miss a beat. I mean, look at that transition right there.
And just look at the extension of the cuts too. Like, the cleanest sword cuts in sport karate history by far, to me at least.
I mean, I've heard a lot of people say that they wish that he would have done more single sword on stage, because it was just he was just so amazing at both. It's hard to say that one was better than the other.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm almost more entertained watching the single sword forms because there was also more variation in them, right? It's kind of, and I'll replay this one more time, it's kind of that old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So if you look at kind of the 4-year reign of dominance that Kalman had with his double sword form on stage, it didn't change a whole lot because it didn't need to. Granted, he added new folds. He had like a new trick or two every year, but the layout was the same. But in his single sword forms, you see him change it up all the time. It seemed like he was always doing a different choreography here.
And then you'll even notice just like he does some like micro movements, whether it's a pause or something that his hand's doing while he's spinning another one, that just you don't fully notice it or think about it when you're building a form, but just doing a slight accent of catching the sword while the other hand is doing a pose, and just it all works together is just really what kind of brings the whole form together. And even his ending pose, it's in slow motion, but it just adds that climax look, that grand finale to his form, and it's so small. It just slowly brings down as he curls his hands, hits another amazing stance, and then it's done.
Mm-hmm. I was about to say, and that was something that was unique too, ending the form in a stance. So many people nowadays, especially, just kind of end their form standing there. So to end a form in that low front stance, that's something that was really unique too. And Reid's absolutely right. You always want to find the little things that can accent what you're doing. And so now we're going to transition to somebody who was a master of accenting those little things. This is somebody who was one of my initial coaches in showing me how to compete. And then I know Reid, she's been more of a direct coach of yours, especially in the more recent years, giving you guidance on your transition to the adult division, getting on Paul Mitchell, all that. We've got the current forms and weapons coach of Team Paul Mitchell, Lauren Carney, and just the creativity and exactly what you're talking about accenting movements. You'll see when Lauren runs this form, she was an absolute master of it.
Another thing is watch for the power that she brings to this weapon. You know, you'll see it, you know, maybe not from this angle, but something that she brought is just her facial expression, just the sheer amount of energy that she brought to her face and her yells, and then just the quick movements and everything just really brought it together.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, for those of you that haven't been following along, we've now transitioned to Reid's current team, which is Team Paul Mitchell with forgot to throw in that transition. But yeah, just the creativity of the striking is what impresses me. And notice, I don't think if she does a release in this form, I think it's just this one right here. No, she doesn't even throw. She just went into a pose there. So Lauren does, there's the release that I was talking about. So she does one release in the entire form, and the rest of the creativity is rooted in the striking, which is extremely impressive.
And she did something towards the beginning where it was like a neck roll, then she released it behind her neck. Just something unique, you know. It's crazy. I don't remember, little Matt Imig shot right there. It's crazy how like just certain small movements that didn't transfer over later into competition. People haven't watched this form and tried to learn that move and then reciprocate it, right? So just proves the point of the value of these kind of podcasts or film studies. Go back, see what people did. You know, you'd be surprised what kind of inspiration you get.
Absolutely. I mean, in my own strike combos, I've drawn a lot of inspiration from Lauren, who was one of my coaches, to Casey Marks, who was Lauren's coach. And so now what we're going to go into is we're shifting into a lineage here, right? And this is the lineage that I'm very proud to call myself a part of, which is it all dates back to Mike Bernardo, which is going to be the next video that we're going to watch. Mike Bernardo trained Casey Marks Nash. Casey trained Lauren Carney, and then Lauren is trained with myself, Reid. And we're also going to take a look at some other offshoots of that kind of lineage tree as well as we go through some more of these videos. But Casey was kind of the person who did a lot of that original innovation as far as the more creative techniques go. It was kind of Casey kind of started that, and then Lauren took it to another level kind of from the coach to the student, which is a really cool dynamic.
And do we see that toss to hit in the front stance in this form? Does that make it in there?
I'm hoping so. I think that in this particular form, Casey actually upgraded that a little bit. I believe she does 2 throws back to back, if I remember correctly.
I just remember being a super young athlete, and anytime she would get on stage, that'd be like the thing to look for. It's like sheer power, speed, precision, and then like boom, release, and then wham, frozen, and then takes off again.
Oh, that pose with the bow straight up and down and the left hand, knife hand, low block. I mean, that is, I always call that's the Michael Jordan brand pose of sport karate. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Something to look for sure when I was growing up.
Mm-hmm. I also love the look of Casey's belt. The whole like super old tattered black belt. It's a great aesthetic. I love it.
I mean, going back to the intensity, the yells, the positioning of her hands when she's curled. I mean, she just was goes without saying, but just once again, well-rounded. She knew her weapon. She knew how to go about it, and she worked it, you know, and here she upgraded it. Bam! Right there.
Absolutely legendary there with that pose. And then it was a huge deal when she did this upgrade, because for years it was just the one throw and then the catch. And so when Casey kind of came back to competition after a little spell of not competing, the fact that she would do 2 of these back to back and the way she made them flow together, that was a huge deal to a lot of competitors. It was crazy to see her do that early on.
Very clean transition there from side strike to knife hand cut that you don't really see too often either.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Casey was a technician. It just seemed like everything she did was to picture perfection. And the other thing that a lot of people may not realize is similar to Corey, but kind of on a larger scale and over a longer time period. One thing that's interesting, and Reid backed me up on this, what is defined as clean changes over the years, right? So if you go back and you go and watch some of Casey's forms from the late 90s, and same, not just Casey, but you go back and you watch guys like Mike Chat with the commas, etc. And today's competitors would look at that and be like, that doesn't look as clean to me. You know what I mean? But what you have to understand is back then it was, because that's when speed was first a thing. Stances weren't as important because it's not something that they focused on back then. They were just worried about going as fast as they could and trying to make martial arts a performance art. And so one thing that Casey did brilliantly well was transitioning from her career in the late 90s to the early 2000s, where today's competitors would maybe not see it as being as clean, even though by those standards it was clean. And to like this, which is 2009 NBL Super Grants video uploaded in 2010. And you see this and you realize she completely shifted. Now, by today's modern technical standards, everything was executed exactly the way that you expect to see. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Reid?
No, I mean, I definitely agree. It transitioned, from, I don't remember the exact divisions, but now there's the musical, the extreme, the creative. Back then, what was it? Creative and musical, so it's just beginning to go into the realm of performance sport karate. So it was just making that differentiation between the traditional and the creative. So it was the speed that brought it out. Now, kind of full circle, we're trying to bring back the traditional as much as possible while still maintaining the speed and clean lines. And some of the strikes that people do, maybe it doesn't have the same extension like what you saw with Casey and Corey and Lauren, but they're just so quick and precise that it's still just a little generation change there. It definitely evolves.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So now we're going to go ahead. Speaking of evolution, we're going to take another step backwards in the lineage here. And once again, when you guys see these watermarks pop up, huge props to Sport Martial Arts. Now, whoever is giving an ad to us on YouTube now is not a sponsor of the podcast. But this podcast wouldn't be possible without services like Sport Martial Arts, Black and Blue Video. Like, there's so many great Tournament News Online, Kick Jid. Services like that have just been excellent for documenting a lot of this sport karate history. And so now we're going to go all the way back to 1994, U.S. Open, the one and only, the father of modern bow staff, Michael Bernardo.
I wasn't even born yet.
Neither was I.
Thought of. Still bringing in. See, this was a slight praise to Hakama's podcast here. You got all of them sprinkled throughout it.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, Hakamas were used in a lot of traditional styles of bows. So it's actually kind of interesting that you don't see them very much anymore.
And just the quickness and the precision. I mean, and he knew this at the time. His hair was adding value to this form. Absolutely. I mean, from snapping and then going right into the bow strikes.
Mm-hmm. And that low thrust there would have killed 3 people.
Yeah, for sure.
And then he's gotten to it right there. That spinning figure 8, a lot of people don't understand this. Mike Bernardo was like the first person to do spinning figure 8s. Like, that was the big trick back in the day. Not even letting go of the bow, just trying to do a spinning manipulation like that. I think he's got another one with a swing variation coming up here. Right here. Boom. Big figure 8 from the bottom of the bow leading into a swing. That was extremely innovative for that time period. You didn't see that. And if you could hear the audio, the crowd went crazy when he would do stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think you can, if you look at videos of both you and I now, we have a variation of that swinging in our forms. And then also, I can't think and with certainty say that you did it, but for sure at some point in my form, I have come through with that pose and then into the figure 8. Stone Cold Crazy started that form, very first form we looked at, started with the version, but him doing it in the middle of a strike set is what kind of brought even more attention to it.
Absolutely. And one thing that I want to really exaggerate here at the end of this form, one thing that Mike Bernardo was known for was the intensity. Watch his left leg here. I mean, he is just like so keyed in and so intense and so in the moment. Like, that is, Mike Bernardo was not one to be like nervous, especially not at the end of the form. Like, when that leg was shaking like that, that was just 100% intensity. Like, that is how much he was just into it. You know what I mean? And that's just something that as a performer and as a competitor, I just love seeing that because I know what that feels like. You know what I mean, Reid?
Yeah, absolutely. And different athletes have different ways of showing it, whether it's getting emotional or legs shaking or they're beating their chest like King Kong a million times. I mean, it definitely, everyone has their way of showing it, but that very subtle visualization of his intensity, he can't contain he's probably very proud. He just got through an amazing form and you see that come through. All of his work paid off and you see it in that last moment.
Right. And it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if that was a U.S. Open ISK championship winning routine. Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. I don't have the records, nor was I around to know back then. But I have to assume that definitely competed for the title. If he wasn't, there were other great competitors back then. Mike Chat, John Valera, Ho Sung Pak, Ho Young Pak. I mean, there were a lot of competitors that were really well known. And actually, while we're looking at this freeze frame of Wayne Douglas, who was a student, this is one of the offshoots of the lineage, a student of Casey Marks, tell a funny story. Reid, have I told you the story of the first conversation that I ever had with Mike Bernardo?
I'm not sure.
So this was, I believe it was at Mike Polidi's tournament. I believe I was at the Toronto International Tournament of Martial Arts Champions, and it was the year that you were there as well. We were both teaching seminars, and what was that? Was that maybe 2013? Something like that?
Man, time flies.
Yeah, time flies. But anyway, so we were in Toronto, and at this point, I had only seen Mike Bernardo from a distance. I hadn't shaken his hand and met Mike Bernardo. And as someone who's a super sport karate history nerd, I looked at him like he was, God. You know what I mean? I almost expected him to speak like God a little bit. You know what I mean? Which is an exaggeration, but that is how high regard I held Mike Bernardo. And so, the first time that I went up and talked to him, I introduced myself. I was I'm Jackson Rudolph. It's nice to meet you. I'm a student of Lauren. She was a student of Casey. He was like, I know. And the funny thing was, it was as if he didn't know who he was. You know what I mean? He had there was no arrogance about him. There was no high and mighty, look at me, I'm Mike Bernardo. We had a conversation about college football. And this is the dude that lives in Canada, and he was talking about Clemson college football and how, who was going to win the national championship and everything. And we had a 10-minute conversation about college football. But that's something that's consistent amongst a lot of the greats of sport karate, is that they don't think that they're anything special. They're just martial artists. They're respectful. They're just you and me or anybody. You know what I mean? And I think that's one thing that's very admirable about a lot of those all-time great sport karate competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's cool that you just have a real conversation. I mean, there's a lot to say about someone that you go up to them expecting them, like you said, to be highly regarded, and you talk about football. You didn't think about that at all, and it was just a casual conversation, something that you'll remember. It wasn't about, he didn't feel the need to talk about how great he was, and you'll see that throughout, all of us.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I guess in my head, I was imagining some super technical conversation about the history of bow staff and how it evolved, because those are the stupid kind of things that I think about. But clearly he just wanted to talk about football, which is totally fine. 100% okay. But anyway. He
didn't blow you off. He could have been yeah, Jackson Rudolph, whatever. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So anyway, here's Wayne Douglas, a student of Casey Marks, and fun fact, the youngest competitor to ever be sponsored by Team Paul Mitchell.
How old was he when he started? Not when he started, but when he got on Paul Mitchell.
I believe he was 9 years old. I think that this was his last year. It was either his first year in 10-11 or maybe his last year in 9 and under. But I'm pretty sure he was 9 years old on Paul Mitchell and won the U.S. Open. I think he's the youngest to do – well, I don't think he's the youngest to win U.S. Open anymore, but I think he is the youngest to ever get on Paul Mitchell.
It's a very quick transition from the bow behind his neck to in front of his chest right there.
Mm-hmm. And again, those little nuances. Yeah, I mean, you can see the Casey influence just oozing out of this form. I don't know if oozing is the best verb there, but
I just said so powerful. Mm-hmm. And there you go. You see the Casey, little iconic move.
Mm-hmm. And the knee spin, right? That's something that we saw in Jake's forms for years. Was that knee spin 360, Jake Presley?
Yep. You also see that in the Presley brother. A lot of people. The side strike, shoulder strike, chamber, spear down low. I mean, that has just made its way all the way from the beginning to now. It still runs. People still do it.
Did Jake know, for those of you that saw the Compete Nationals this year, Jake was wearing a headband. Did Jake ever think of the comparisons to Wayne Douglas when he was wearing the headband, or was that just not even a part of it?
I think it's just because his hair is so crazy that he didn't know what the heck to do with it, so he just threw it up there. I'm not sure if he made any remarks towards Wayne Douglas or not. I don't know. I wasn't there.
Because their career trajectories are very similar. I mean, that was almost a goal of Jake's for a long time, was to try to rival Wayne as the youngest to get on. Jake wound up being I think maybe just a few months shy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Jake wasn't that far removed from being one of the youngest to ever be on the team. And so, yeah. And also, like, you know how much I love Jake, and obviously you do because you're his brother. But, like, I've looked at Jake as a brother for as long as I've known Jake, really. So I hold Jake in very high regard myself. And I hope that Jake sheds a tear of joy when he hears me say that on this episode.
I think he's getting food right now. That's what he's
Anyway, so now we're going to go ahead and shift to another offshoot of the lineage, and this is a competitor that unfortunately is lesser known. Connor Griffith, a great friend of Reid and I's, getting married very shortly here, so congratulations to Connor Griffith. He's getting married. That's really cool. And yeah, so Connor, I remember Reid, you, Connor, and I were on road trips for hours at a time, driving to different tournaments from different parts of the South. And Connor was a student of Lauren Carney. He's also part of a different lineage through Jamie Webster, who owns a martial arts school down in Alabama where Connor is from. And so, Reid, I'll just let you give thoughts. You competed directly with Connor for many years. I don't think I ever ran a division against Connor, but you did. So maybe just a little intro to his style and why he probably should be known by more people.
Yeah, Connor, he did an amazing job of always pushing the envelope with his difficulty and skill, and he gets props where he never pulled back. Even when he would drop and he would make those mistakes kind of consistently, but it wasn't his fault. It's because what he was doing was just so amazing and extreme. And we would always say, when he hits, he's going to win. And I think it was this U.S. Open where that kind of became reality. From division to then when he did the U.S. Open form, and just was able to win with that move right there.
I got to replay that one. We're going to take that back. And the one he just did, signature move. We're going to rewind all that real quick.
But he gets props for just being just never pulled back. You know, it didn't. He always knew what form he wanted to do, and nothing was going to stop him from doing it. So.
Once upon a time when Connor and I were both on Change the Game, we played with the idea of doing a sink form, which probably would have been like some of the craziest single bow tricks ever done in a sink form, because we would have just done everything we wanted to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Here it is. Bam, bam,
boom, memento.
And even when I talk to him now, he's like, yeah, that move that you did, you might have won, but three leg move. And I'm like, all right, Connor, you're right. I can't do that.
Yeah, I can't do it either. People don't understand how difficult that is. And then also the move after it, the voodoo reload where it's kind of rolling up his shoulder, but he turns and does like a full 360 catch behind his back. Those are things. He called it the John Doe because there wasn't a name for the move. These are things that you just don't see. And I think that's why Connor Griffith deserves some more respect, because he did some of the hardest bow forms that anybody's done in recent memory.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can search his name, look at his stuff, you'll see some crazy things. And, I'm not even sure that people have done that triple leg move successfully in competition.
Not that I've seen, no.
Yeah.
But anyway, so now we're going to go ahead and move to another one. And actually, we're doing a little tour of Team Change the Game. Some of my teammates, for those of you that don't know, Change the Game was the team that was coached by Lauren Carney before I got put on Paul Mitchell. I represented Change the Game. And the core of that team was myself, Micayla Johnson, Connor Griffith, and Kyle Montagna. And now we're going to look at Micayla Johnson, who, in my opinion, most difficult female comma form of all time. Would you agree with that, Reid?
I think it definitely it's hard to put a most difficult. I guess if you say like the releases and everything, you would definitely see for example, took it right out of my mouth, right? So some of the things, absolutely push the boundaries from the releasing standpoint for sure. Also brings the intensity. She was changing the game, right?
Nice pun.
Yep.
And look at that, tapping the comma back the other direction.
Concentration there. Didn't mean to talk over you. Go ahead.
No, you're good. That's okay. Hey, as long as we keep it moving. But yeah, that tap back and then the behind the back catch with the commas, that's something that you very rarely see even today. So that was something that Micayla was definitely one of the early innovators of.
And she keeps the tempo moving. She's not stopping. and then comes up and finishes strong.
Signature move, spinning one, comma on the other there. And that 360 throw from behind the back, I mean, that was something that was also ahead of its time. We're going to watch this one more time just to give a little bit more love to some of these really intricate tricks, because you'll notice there's a lot of these tricks that comma competitors still do today that Micayla was the first one to do a lot of these. Not all these tricks, of course. She got inspiration from other places as well. But like the under the leg toss and then that idea of tapping the comma back the other direction, nobody ever did that. Nobody's done that since, which is crazy.
She's using the stage, going all over.
That's a movement. That's another really important aspect of a form that a lot of the young competitors want to look out for. You always want to try to maximize your use of the ring, which Micayla did very well.
Especially when you get to stage. You know, it's one thing when it's 6x6, whole nother thing when it's a full maxed out stage. Better use it. I don't care how tall you are. You're going to look small if you stay in one spot.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Did you ever compete directly against Micayla, Reid?
I was actually trying to figure that out. Looking at 2013 Adult Warrior Cup, I don't remember my first year in the adult division. I don't know.
Well, you won. Well, because that was something that you and I both did. I think we both won the Warrior Cup in weapons each of our first years as adults. So if that was 2013, then that would have been a division that you won, which is kind of funny. Sorry, Micayla. But anyway, now Micayla, now to give Micayla some credit back, the reason I bring that up is because Micayla actually beat me for a Warrior Cup once. It's one of my poor decision-making stories in sport karate. But Micayla was the 14 to 17 representative.
Just win.
But Micayla was, so we were teammates, obviously on Change the Game at the time, and Micayla had been dominant in 14 to 17. If you remember, Reid, do you remember Ken Warner?
Yeah.
So Ken Warner was one of the guys with 100% performance, and he used to like keep up with all the stats throughout sport karate seasons. And there was one year, and Reid, I think this is maybe when you were out with your Achilles, and we were in different age divisions anyway, but there was one year where Micayla and I alone competing for Change the Game were leading all of NASCA in the total overall count over all other teams, because I was winning the 13 and under, Micayla was winning the 14-17. That year, I believe it was 2011, we made it to the Warrior Cup final against each other. Me, the 13 and under representative, Micayla, the 14-17. And because I had so much respect for Micayla and I knew how good her stuff was, I decided to throw a move that I'd never thrown before. And so that was actually the first time that I ever attempted the two spins catch behind the back. I wound up dropping, and then Micayla took that Warrior Cup, which, by the way, even if I had caught that move, Micayla still would have beat me. You know what I mean? Who's to say? Because that's how great Micayla was. But if we're going to bring up Reid winning that Warrior Cup, we should also bring up the Warrior Cup that Micayla did, in fact, win. So big props to Micayla for that.
I wasn't going to take it from her. I'm like, I don't remember. Mr. Jones.
That's it. For Reid, Marcel Jones has been a huge inspiration for you. He's coached you up a little bit. So maybe, and we've got several Marcel Jones forms here. So maybe during this one, just kind of give us some background on the greatness that is Marcel Jones.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the greatness is just a word that encompasses Marcel Jones, right? From just who he is as a person to who he is as a martial artist to what you see with the creativity and just the power, his ability to win overalls with the creative form just because he made a creative form, pushed it to the limit, and made it look extreme. I think we probably first started working with him, my family, back when double bow started becoming a thing, because I was going down there to work with Calman. And probably before that, I was working with him in forms. So some of the things that you'll hear me like teaching and critiquing people on and talking about is like tempo and pace and extension and power. And that all, comes down from that. And he has just the way he leans into the punches, and you can just feel the movements that he does. And then also his jawline and intensity, adds value there.
Bring out the jawline. And definitely one of probably the top 5 most powerful competitors in the history of sport karate. And in my opinion, which again, that can mean whatever you want it to, but in my opinion, the greatest creative forms competitor of all time.
Absolutely. And he competed back at a time, and I'm not sure if this clip makes it in there, but you'll just see if you go look at forms of Marcel, he competed in a time where there was tape around the rings and carpet, and people were able to get right up against the ring, and there's just crowds everywhere, and they just go absolutely nuts for a creative form. And it's just something that I wish we had more in today's competition. Is just you'd have divisions of just masses of people surrounding. Even back in the 2005 video of me doing Stone Cold Crazy, there's a fair amount of people sitting around and everything. And here is the clip I was talking about. Look at all of those people watching this division. They shut down the ring behind it. I mean, you see this sometimes with fighting. You don't see this all the time with forms nowadays. And it's just that picture alone, I think, says is worth 1,000 words, right?
Absolutely. I mean, Charlie Lee Nationals is one of those like legendary events. If there's two tournaments that I would ever want to compete in my life, it would be the French Open because of how hyped those forms always were. And it would be the Charlie Lee Nationals because of situations like this. And I showed those two videos of Marcel on stage first because when he was on stage, he had this way of, you would watch the form and just assume it was an extreme form because of how impressive it was. I mean, he would fly 10 feet above the stage, which makes him 20 feet above everybody in the room with just like a jump front kick or a split kick, right? And that's what was so impressive, and you can really see his power well there. And the other thing that's impressive, the first clip from Quebec Open, that was back, and I've competed on that Quebec Open stage. It is slick. That old school Quebec Open stage back when Claremont Poulin, one of the greatest promoters in the history of sport karate, back when he was running the tournament, that's before mats were really a thing. And that night show had like a slick dance floor that Marcel didn't slip on once, landed everything exactly the way he wanted to. As you were mentioning, this is a carpet with, some athletic tape around the edges ring. And this atmosphere would just be so crazy to compete in. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this one. I believe in the same division, this is also the legendary Danny Graham form where he did the cheat 7 twist and the snafu swipe in the same form.
Oh, wow. I wouldn't know.
It was a crazy division. And again, that's me just being a nerd, but.
Yeah. I mean, it always was. I mean, just the people that were in this division, just it brought the best out of everyone consistently. There was no holding back. There was no, oh, should I do this move? It was just, I mean, look, everyone stands up. Was that a butterfly kick? Yeah. And he made people stand up on a butterfly kick and a pop front kick. I mean, you got to have a pretty good butterfly kick, pop front kick, and a split to make people stand up for you.
Absolutely. And then also in that back corner, I believe that is the late and legendary Hans Wickling over in the full white gi out of frame. Now you just see him come into frame. And that was one thing that Hans was always very respected for, was not only his performances, but his ability to hype up his competitors. You see him giving a standing ovation to Marcel right now. That's just something you don't see in the sport anymore. And that's something that was really special about Hans and his character.
Absolutely. You can't say enough about his character for sure.
We got to watch this again just because it's Marcel Jones. You know what I mean? I've got a ton of respect for Marcel Jones.
Yeah, and something that you'll also see is like competitors now, they'll like either slide backwards or maybe they'll like move forwards towards the judges. But what you just saw there is the way he did like his chop punch, set punch, is he attacked forward. You don't see people being so aggressive towards the corners as much, just to add that dynamic look, add the power. He just did a wrist. He did a chicken wing strike? I don't know, kung fu, but did it up above his head just to add length. Something that I talk about and got from him is the ability to have a form that has the linear level moves, but be able to drop to the knee, drop to a standing position, go up even further to a flip, and just utilizing those 3 planes of movement to then make it better.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Marcel Jones, a legendary member of Team Pro Rank. Now we're going to move on to, and Reid and I being primarily weapons competitors. Now, Reid, later in your career, you actually made a pretty big shift to being a full-time forms competitor, had some success with that, won a U.S. Open title and a diamond ring as well in forms that same year, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. So, but, I mean,
I couldn't just be a weapons guy,
Exactly, right. So you've got that, and that's awesome. But a lot of people, because a lot of the great battles that we've had, they see us as weapons guys, right? So, and I admittedly am very much so only a weapons guy, which I take great pride in.
I couldn't shake the bug either. I think I competed that year, twice with weapons, maybe once. The Battle of Atlanta, it might have been the clip we showed him Cole kicked my butt, but it's okay. Stayed within the family, right?
Right. Absolutely. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to an extreme weapons competitor. This is one of my favorite sword competitors to ever watch. This is Josh Corton, who also had some great battles with Corey Lutkus in that 14-17 division.
Probably one of those sword competitors you don't hear a whole lot about, but has so much value to go look and see what he did. Especially if you're a swords athlete, you want to have more inspiration, always check him out.
I always call Josh Corton the Shaun White of sport karate. Can you tell why? I mean, it's the same hairstyle, man. Come on.
Yeah. It reminds me of Luke Brodlick, a.k.a.
Right.
Must have been the thing, you know.
I couldn't get my hair to do with those cuts. Beach whisk, very nice. Well, I mean, he was always known for his intensity. I mean, his double rotation on that release there. But if you just watch his facial expressions and then his key eyes throughout this form, he always wanted to win more than anybody else. And that was one thing that always stood out about Josh Corton.
And also his ability to go from quick cuts to quick spins to quick releases. And that's just something that stands out with the single sword. What you'll see a lot of times is a slowed down transition from the cut to a release with sword, just because it's a little heavier than the other weapons. But the ability to go so quick from cuts to releases is something that you see even people like Dawson Holt doing in today's competitions with the quick releases.
Absolutely. And Dawson, I think, has probably got the best chance of any of the juniors right now, doing sword, that is, to be the next somebody like a Josh Corton or a Johnny Liskar or a Jacob Cable, and really be one of those people that changes the game with sword. And then hopefully, as he moves on into the future, he can try to emulate some of the things that Kalman did in his career. And, as coaches of Competitive Edge, I know that we both hope that for all of our Competitive Edge members. But speaking directly about sword, Dawson Holt's the guy right now.
Absolutely. Now, was that a Lauren Carney clip of her doing Gopai show right there?
That was a Lauren Carney Gopai show. Probably one of the greatest Gopai shows of all time was Lauren Carney's Gopai show.
Very nice.
Anyway, so now we're going to move on.
It's going to be good if it's a French Open form.
Oh, absolutely. This is something that I'm making a tradition. So for those of you that are going to keep tuning into the film study episodes of this podcast, French Open will always be in the film study. French Open, specifically French Open 5, is probably one of the most legendary martial arts tournaments to ever occur. Everybody went ham. Everybody threw everything they had. And it's because, and I mentioned this in the episode with Sammy Reid, did you know this? The promoter just flew them out there. It wasn't like a Paul Mitchell sponsor or anything like that. The promoter brought all these people in to just throw down, which is just awesome.
I mean, that's something. There's something to be said about a tournament that you get flown out to, and there is no pressure other than doing your best. And that's probably why you see people pushing the limit, is because they were just brought out for a show. They were brought out to bring the heat, show people what the teams over the United States were made of, and this is what you get.
Absolutely. And so now sport karate history reference here. I believe this is the first form that the inventor of the Snapu swipe himself, Steve Terada, ever performed a Snapu swipe in. I'm pretty sure this was the first one. Snapu swipe being a side swipe, which is kind of an inverted 540 kick with an extra rotation at the end. We'll point it out when it gets there.
It sounds easy. Just kidding. One of the most difficult kicks someone can do.
Boom.
Right there.
There it is. Beautiful. Let's rewind that, because he also opens it up with the Terada swipe, or the side swipe, here at the very beginning of the form. And then right after that goes into the Snapu swipe, which is crazy.
And then what's great is you can still see the kick on the Snapu swipe.
Boom. Boom. It's the kick, then the rotation. I mean, that's just beautiful.
And he hit a stance. Come on.
Also, a winner of America's Next Best Dance Crew with Quest Crew. The originality of that split kick to the full twist with the kick out, I mean, that's incredible. A little bit of a stumble there, but because everybody went so hard,
I was going to call that swag. He started to come out of it, and then knee slides. Definitely, I don't know if he was a dancer at that point, but you knew that he would probably do it from then forward.
Right, absolutely. Great save at the very least. Again, thank you very much to Sport Martial Arts for bringing you this podcast. Sport Martial Arts is not a sponsor. They just have all of the French Open videos. This one is actually, I believe this is a Jan Sikora video, who's somebody, he's been coming out to a lot of the tournaments recently. I saw him Martial Arts Super Show over the past couple of years. I think he's been to US Open. So thank you to Jan Sikora, if you're listening to this, for uploading some of these videos. And Reid, we've got the originality and creativity of Kim Do here.
I mentioned swag in the other clip, and it just kind of carried over to this one, you know. His walkout, his movements, and I assume it matches the audio that he has going on.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of people in recent years remember Jacob Ellis for his choreographed routines. The originator of that kind of routine was Kim Do. Kim Do is who brought it. Boom, huge pit-style X out there. That's crazy.
And it's stuff like that that like competitors now would benefit from. Everyone does a round off X out, round off flash kick, round off full, touchdown double court, cartwheel dub to knee. Do something like that and you'll stand out. That's just different.
Absolutely. Tucking the knees in on the cheat 7 there, then going right back into the dance choreography. And then here comes the martial arts once again. Boom. Oh, no, a little bit of a stumble there, or maybe a big bit of a stumble. I actually didn't know that was in this clip, but still, much respect to Kim Do. He had some legendary routines, and his French Open ones are definitely one of them. If it had not been that we're not using audio, you should definitely check out his elimination form from French Open 5. It was 100% choreographed to like fight scene sounds and gunshots. It was crazy.
And I don't know if you just saw it, but he just got in a fight with like 5 other people, and I don't even think they touched him.
Sweet. So Kim Do, very much respect to him. And like I was saying, it's common to see mistakes at the French Open because people went for everything. And it really didn't matter. People were just going out there to put on a show. And now we're going to transition to another guy that always put it all on the mat. This is Sammy Vasquez, a teammate of Kim Do on Team Straight Up.
I was going to say that was a uniform that I would look for as a young athlete, which you're not going to see much of the uniform now, but is that black and purple or the purple and white, purple and gold. When you saw that coming on stage, you knew that something amazing was going to happen.
Oh, yeah, Straight Up. A lot of people give Straight Up a ton of credit for their point fighting right now because they have stars like Bailey Murphy, Brandon Ballou going out there and putting in work for point fighting. But, I mean, they have a great forms and weapons pedigree. Mark Canonizato, Ryan Wells, Sammy Vasquez, Kim Do, Tiffany Larson, and there's others that I'm forgetting.
Joey
Greenhall himself, right? A great bow competitor. Absolutely. And also notice, Reid, can you identify where those karate pants are from? Great transition there, going from the flash right into the Webster, which is super cool.
Trying to see where they came from. I can't tell. Where are they from?
Notice that logo down on the pants leg now. I'll give you one more try. Bit of sport karate.
He's moving so fast. I don't know. I mean, he's kicking, he's dancing.
Dude, that is the Florida Sport Martial Arts Academy logo. That is Will Canonizato's school, the home of Mark Canonizato. That is also where Sammy Vasquez comes from, as well as many other great NASCAR competitors. I believe Haley Glass was originally from that school. So Florida Sport Martial Arts Academy has always been putting out top talent.
Yeah, absolutely. And something to watch from this form, like, it's just all energy, right? He was able to do everything that he's doing, and I don't even think he took one breath in. I mean, he's just go, 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 go.
Absolutely. So now, speaking of style, speaking of swagger, we present to you the greatest sport martial arts competitor of all time, and often overlooked for his showmanship. Like, people forget how much of a showman Kevin Thompson was. Let's just enjoy this. I mean, this uniform. I mean, this uniform should be in a museum. Is that zebra print? Is that what that is?
I think so. He's working it, man.
Mm-hmm. Also, one of the most jacked competitors in the history of sport karate.
I need to look like him when I grow up, for sure.
Absolutely. Boom. That was a jumping front kick, not a pop front kick. That was one knee leads the way first, then the other leg kicks, and then he landed on both feet. That's incredibly hard to do. People don't realize. Did it again to the other side. People don't realize how hard that is.
And you're seeing someone successfully do a more traditional based comma routine and it's still entertaining. It's not, you don't see that hardly ever, someone doing commas from a traditional background and just, they zoomed in on the wink right there, didn't they?
Right. We're going to catch that. I needed to rewind this, though. Look at the split kick. Look at this. And we talk about nuance. Look at this. Boom. Not even going to look at it. Looks the other way, midair, lands clean, and then right back into it. I mean, that is style personified. And here's that moment.
Little quick. Awesome. Bladed foot, everything. Just, what can you say? What can you say?
Mm-hmm. And the intensity, he hasn't let up this whole time.
He's moving, he's looking. It's one of my favorite things when a competitor does their form, but they show, even though it's imaginary, they're spotting the targets. They're doing their pauses, and he's still going.
Absolutely. Now he's just putting on a show for the crowd. That's awesome. I mean, that's what makes sport martial artists look like professional athletes right there. High-fiving the crowd, fist in the air, smiling, interacting with the fans. I mean, he was the Michael Jordan of sport karate. I mean, that is who Kevin Thompson was. And it is just, it's incredible to go back and watch some of his old film. It's one of my favorite hobbies is just to watch old Kevin Thompson film. And
it's just pure passion. Pure love on his face when he's doing it. He's up there. He's not doing it because he has to.
Right. Absolutely. And now we're going to transition to another great Team Paul Mitchell competitor. And at the end here, I wanted to throw in a couple of fun videos for you and I to enjoy. Now, the reason that this is fun and not just entertaining and not just impressive is that in the 2000 season, there was a rivalry going on between Anthony DeMarco and another competitor. Reid, do you know who that other competitor was?
I'm not sure. You're calling me out. Pop quiz.
I know. I wanted to do the pop. I mean, again, this is like NASCAR history stuff, sport karate history. I just love it. But anyway, Jason Tankson, who most people know for his fighting, right? In one of the earlier episodes of the podcast, I did comparisons between point fighters and basketball players. And Jason Tankson was my Vince Carter for his longevity and just how entertaining and his highlight reel. I mean, it's incredible. But he was also a great forms competitor. And this year, he and Anthony DeMarco went head to head. And probably one of the coolest call-outs that has ever happened in the history of sport karate happens in the interplay between these two routines. So first, we're going to watch one of the best soft-style wushu practitioners of all time, Anthony DeMarco. And Reid, I know that your instructor, Jason Warren's a huge fan of Anthony DeMarco.
Oh, absolutely. Talks about him all the time, makes references even now. Has me watch these videos. There goes that double leg. That's something I wish I would have done in my competition, is just a nice, clean double leg just like that. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they do it. They flip to their back. I feel like I'd knock the wind out of me.
Exactly. I mean, it's one of those things that's just an art of Kung Fu practitioners, is that ability to fall and not take any damage. And we're going to get to that here pretty close to the end of this form. Beautiful stretch axe kick right there.
And you know all about falling damage.
Perfect timing for that comment there. So for those of you that don't know, we're going to go ahead and we're going to hold Anthony DeMarco in that incredible stance there. So since this is the fun part of the episode, I mean, we've been having fun this whole time, but I guess the funny part, the story that Reid references is we were once playing video games. I believe it was probably Black Ops 2, maybe Modern Warfare 3 back in the day. We were with Connor Griffith, somebody we mentioned earlier in the show. And we were playing this game, and I was new to the game. I had not played the game before. I was just like learning the ropes. Connor and Reid were like 25th prestige or whatever you call it. Reid was getting Moabs left and right, mother of all bombs, right? And we're playing this like war game, whatever it was. And I died in the game because I like jumped off a building trying to get to somebody. And then I was like on Connor's team, I think it was. And Connor was like, Jackson, that was stupid. What are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, you're taking too much falling damage. And I'm like, what's falling damage? And he doesn't even answer the question. He just like punches me in the top of the head.
Well, Jackson, when you fall off things,
you get damaged. So that's what I learned from that experience. So that was the classic Big Brother moment that I shared there with Connor Griffith when he punched me in the head because I took too much falling damage. So there's the story that we're sharing there. So Anthony DeMarco finishes his routine, and the fall that he did at the end is what I want everybody to remember. When he did that kind of stiff body fall, which is a classic demonstration of wushu kung fu technique, now I want everybody to watch what Jason Tankson does. Same year, this is the exact same division. They're competing against each other. This is head-to-head. You see he's the much more hard style, extreme forms type. Great speed here, 540 all the way down to the split. Kip up, very creative little twist there to add that sidekick in.
It's amazing that he was also a world-renowned fighter.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Multi-talented martial artist. Huge. That was one of the earliest kind of whips into the flash kick that anybody had ever done, which is crazy.
Yeah, you definitely don't see that. You'll see back handsprings and stuff, but you don't see too many whips into things.
Absolutely. Did you see the double L kick too? Boom. We've got to play that again. So this is Jason Tankson just going, I want to try to get this. I want to go back a little bit more because he's about to do a double L kick, which is also super creative right there, which I think deserves respect.
That's crazy.
And then he just straight up takes the kung fu move from the end of Anthony DeMarco's form and just full sends. He just yeets himself up into the air and falls straight on his back and then gets up and finishes his form.
It makes it look on purpose.
That takes to do that, Reid.
And he fully jumped to the highest of his abilities and then free fall because he jumped that high that he could free fall down onto his back. That's a pretty good call out right there.
I have no idea who won that division, but just the testicular fortitude, if you will, to just throw yourself in the air. And yeah, we're keeping the show PG-13. And then just fall right on your shoulder blades, all in an effort to just discredit what your competitor did. Just incredible confidence by Jason Tankson.
I feel like now we're about to watch like a Star Wars episode.
Right. So we are transitioning. Michael Guthrie, the greatest tricker of all time, said last week that Josh Durbin is in his opinion, is the greatest informed tricker of all time. But unfortunately, for Josh Durbin's career, one of the things that he is most remembered for is this attempt, which also took quite a great deal of confidence and was documented beautifully. Right? I believe Cole DeRoos is the name of the guy that uploaded this video, a friend of Michael Guthrie's. And so there was apparently this bet that Josh Durbin would do a double backflip the first time on stage. And Josh Durbin tried it, and that's what we're about to watch. But before that, one of the reasons I wanted to watch this video with Reid in particular is Reid is actually somebody that has landed a double backflip before. So Reid, now you did it on spring floor and you did it onto a pad to ensure that you didn't hurt yourself because this is an extremely dangerous technique. So tell the audience a little bit about just how hard this would be to do on a regular sport karate mat. It originates, it doesn't originate. It is a tumbling move. And what you see people doing in tumbling and gymnastics is all on spring floors or rod floor or trampoline, or you're taking off of some point of surface that's going to give you an extra bounce. So that alone, going from a springed floor or something that's going to give you either added height or just extra boost, and then transitioning to a matted, I assume it's matted. I hope it's matted. Matted floor, he's relying solely on his legs. Now, the double back is one of those where you have to be fully aware of where you are because you're doing two full back tuck rotations. And it's definitely a move. The reason why I did it this one time, I did it twice in one trick session, is because I got it filmed and that's all I felt like I ever needed to do it. And the matted surface, the landing, was because I think I was only like a year and a half post clearance from the Achilles rupture. So I wasn't taking any chances. Probably shouldn't have done it to begin with, but who's going to stop me? I was up at the Infinity Winter Camp, I believe, wearing a Galaxy Cat tank top. So you can go find that on my Instagram if you want to check it out. But this is definitely hard to do on
a matted surface. And you see people doing it on grass now all the time. But to do it mid-form in front of people with your adrenaline pumping without over-rotating or under-rotating is a feat that I don't think anyone has done yet or tried since then.
Right. And I think that you'll see in this video, there's good reason that others have not attempted this technique. So here we go. We have the epic intro sequence here. Star Wars theme, as Reid mentioned. Cole DeRoos thought that Josh Durbin was joking, but alas, he was not. The suspense is incredible here, because everybody knows what's about to happen. Well, I don't guess everybody knows exactly what's about to happen. Ah! That's just, and then they slow-mo it.
I mean, he totally would have landed it. That's like what they say. When you go for a move like this, you fully commit. It's a full sin. He would have landed it, maybe over-rotated if he landed on his heels, but he had the height, and he just opened up. That one he committed a little bit, but probably wasn't fully ready like the other one. The other one he could have landed if he stayed in tight.
Absolutely. And just seeing those landings, man, that's tough. And I love how in the background of this clip, I believe that's Larry Carnahan in all black back there. And you can just tell that Larry is ready to be like, all right, nope, we're done here. We're cutting this.
Get him off the stage.
You're not breaking your neck up on this stage right now. But yeah, an iconic video in sport karate history. And hey, a lot of respect for what it takes to go up there and attempt it. You know what I mean? Any thoughts, Reid?
I mean, I think I said it. It's a move that people really spend a long time working towards. It's not something you just throw. Takes a lot of momentum, takes a lot of body awareness, and just being able to have the confidence is the word that we're using, to go up there and throw it. I mean, he held himself accountable. He made a bet. He said he was going to do it. He went and he did it twice. And the competitor in me wishes that he would have landed it, because that video would have been even more memorable than the fall.
Oh, absolutely. And so now we're moving on to just one of my favorite performances of all time. U.S. Open breaking is one of my favorite things to watch, particularly the creative breaking division. And there's a couple of reasons I wanted to play this. Number one, even though there are some things about this video that competitors nowadays may find funny, for me in particular, I loved his intro. Larry Fields, one of the greatest breakers of all time, his intro, as you're going to see right now, and I'll go ahead and start playing it. His intro, I'm going to try to lip sync myself saying it with him saying it, see if that works. This message is brought to you by Paul Mitchell. So this is a championship performance. Again, Larry Fields, one of the greatest breakers of all time. And then he says right here, judges, I'm going to break these bricks and these boards to the best of my ability. And I'm just going to pause it there. Is that not one of the best introductions you've ever heard in your life?
I'm going to break stuff.
I'm going to break these bricks and these boards to the best of my ability.
See those samurai swords over there? I'm going to break stuff on them. Watch.
Right, absolutely. So entertaining for that reason, and some people would say funny for that reason. And then what he does at the end of this routine takes the utmost amount of, as we are using the term, confidence. And I just want you guys to watch this. Reid, have you ever seen this creative breaking routine?
Yes, but it has been some time.
I watched this on television. Right, and it was a rerun because I was 3 years old when this was on television the first time. But, like, I remember seeing a U.S. Open rerun from some year that they reran this on television of Larry Fields doing this.
I'm going to assume – I'm just going to pretend I'm watching it for the first time ever.
So here he's going to fire an arrow at himself.
Talk about confidence.
Right.
I guess he's going to – very nice.
Right.
Very
so
nice.
The idea, he explained this before he did the technique as well. The idea there, and I'll rewind it so everybody can see it. The idea, he wasn't going to break the arrow. His goal was to break the plane of the arrow. So the arrow's coming at him. His goal was to like palm strike and break the plane of the arrow. So we'll see that again. It may have misfired a little bit. It looks like it doesn't come off super straight. But when you're firing an arrow with a long string, I think that's maybe one of the complications you'd expect.
I mean, that's impressive as it is.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
The
still.
contraction alone, some sort of crossbow makeshift thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, creativity just in rigging the setup. And he did it. I mean, he didn't get stabbed, so that's good.
That's true. Then broke through
Big
different levels of boards.
Mm-hmm. This one's extremely impressive.
Just thinking of flying sidekick.
I believe it is.
It's going to get up there without knocking everything down.
And that's a big boy getting up there too, man. I mean, he's getting all of him up there.
Can break through 2 of these?
Mm-hmm. Well, he's just going to break the cinder block in general. Like, nobody breaks the cinder blocks. They just break the slabs. That's crazy.
People use this to set up their breaks. I break my setup.
Right. Also, you get a great angle of the mullet here, which is legendary. And then right here, this is supposedly a human skull on a stick, and he is going to shatter this. Now, I'm sure it's not actually a human skull. I don't think.
Taken from the Pirates of the Caribbean ride?
I mean, this is at Disney World, so.
Yeah, maybe.
Boom. Just shatters it, jump spinning crescent kick there.
So imagine what he could do to your skull.
Right. Boom. Big elbow break there. He's going to make sure he finishes. See how effortless that was? Just how effortless that little extra concrete brick there was. Boom. Double palm.
Now he doesn't smash his toes while breaking everything.
Boom. The break, Chip Townsend, another legendary breaker made famous. And then here we go. We are getting sexy right here. Top is coming off.
Whoa.
Boom. I really hope people listening to the audio version of this watch the video so they understand what I'm talking about here.
I'm getting nervous watching. I don't even know. I don't know what someone would have to do to make me lay across 3 samurai swords. I don't know what.
Without a shirt on. Like, he has no protection between him and these swords.
Well, if I'm going to do that, I would have to not have my shirt on because that would just make it go viral.
Boom. And then Reid, just like you were saying at the beginning, big judges right there at the end there. I mean, that the word that I could best use for it, that is an electric performance. I mean, that is one of the most entertaining things that you can see in sport karate right there, is Larry Fields just going in.
Just breaking.
Absolutely doing his thing.
Shattering.
Mm-hmm. And you notice those scores.
Judge with the 5.
Right. You see a 9.5, a 9.4. Breaking standards are very different than forms and weapon standards. They score very differently, or at least back then they did. This was a winning routine. You see 9.5, 9.4, and you may not think so. That was a winning routine there. The 9.8 that he got from the judge on the end was a very high score for the breaking division at that time.
Wow. And then the cleanup. Applaud those guys.
Oh, man, I wish we could hear this interview. I actually haven't listened to this interview in a long time, but there is Larry Fields, one of the greatest breakers of all time. And
I just noticed the mullet.
Oh, yeah, the mullet's one of the best parts of the whole routine, man.
Yeah. And this arrow just – I wish that he could have, just chopped it right in half.
Yeah, that would have been crazy.
But he caught it.
Mm-hmm.
Or deflected it. I thought he caught it.
Right. What he was breaking was the plane of the arrow. I think that was the idea. So,
yeah.
But anyway, I mean, there was so much other stuff that happened in that routine that was so impressive. I mean, who cares if the arrow misfired a bit or not? You know what I mean?
I'm not going to nitpick because I couldn't have done most of that stuff that he did.
Right. I was about to say I couldn't have done any of that stuff he did. I would like to try the baseball bat break one day. I'd have to train those round kicks a lot, but
you have to get your shin ready.
Right. And so now we transition. We're gonna finish this up by some back-to-back videos of myself and then Reid. Speaking of breaking, speaking of creative breaking, 2011 Twin Towers was quite the interesting tournament for the two of us. I was in the 13 and under grants. My creative book.
Double bow.
This is pre-double bow, yeah.
This is pre-double bow, and this still happened.
Right, exactly. So this is me on stage for CMX, Reid on stage for traditional, running our bow forms, and we both break our bows mid-form in the same night. I mean, it was within 10 minutes of each other. It was like my division and then Reid's division, and we both broke our bows, and the crowd was absolutely electric. That's one of my favorite adjectives right now, is to call things electric.
You keep on saying electric.
Yeah. I get it from Pat McAfee, one of my inspirations in sports conversating on the internet.
Electric. Lightning.
Right. So anyway, so this is me with the intro that lasted 47 years. Reid, do you remember what song I used to walk into with this 47 years?
Probably all I do is win.
Yeah, this is the all I
Not
do.
that day. I'm just kidding.
Now, technically, due to NASCAR rules that I don't necessarily agree with, breaking your weapon does result in a disqualification, which is suboptimal. But nonetheless, I did lose this division because of that.
I think that's a whole nother conversation. Should it be a restart? Some people argue that it's not showing control of the weapon. Some people argue it should be a restart. I don't really know what my opinion is.
I can't help it if the wood breaks because I struck too hard, right? And I know that sometimes bows do break because the hands are in the wrong position. But like with a break like this one, if the bow breaks in between your two hands, you had good hand positioning. The bow just broke because you struck hard. You know what I mean? And the other thing is it's a disadvantage to bow competitors because you don't see comma blades flying off. You don't see chucks coming undone.
Thank God.
Yeah, exactly, right? The only competitors that are at risk of this are bow competitors. So I definitely think, and there on that low over the head strike is where it broke. And then I just kind of finish it off there with my hands. And then I take it on. Reid, how do you rate the double bow skills here?
I mean, it is superb. I mean, I don't think anything at that point has ever been done before.
Yeah, this was all ad-lib too. People ask me if I planned this. This was 100% off the dome, just going with it. And yeah, certainly a moment that I will never forget was that first time that I broke a bow in competition. And now, Reid, can you narrate yours?
Don't say anything about the hair. For some reason, I thought that it was good to look like some sort of Super Saiyan Sonic the Hedgehog faux hawk hybrid thing. So don't say anything about that.
I thought it looked great, Reid.
What I was trying to be taller, and then I just gave up. What's funny about this clip is you have to go listen to Kathy Rudolph, Jackson's mom, in the background of when I break my bow. But I don't remember making it very far into this form.
By the way, you don't make it very far. I need to interrupt with two things. Number one, you can see in the background right now in that green shirt, that is a fetus of Jake Presley right there. I mean, Jake is like fresh out the womb right there in that image. He's so young. And then this is me clapping my hands, trying to, oh, it's Jake. Jake just came on camera. I really, really hope. So this is the first time that I'm trying to get my face in the shot. And I don't know if the Zoom recording includes the thumbnail of me and Reid. So I have no idea if you guys are gonna be able to see this or not. But Jake Presley has arrived. How's it going, Jake?
What's going on?
Do you have any words of wisdom for us before we watch Reid break his bow?
You know, Reid's hair then was crazy. That's all I remember. What am I there, like 9, 8?
You're just a little green speck, like Mike Wazowski walking around over there.
Reid, real quick, and Jake, don't go away yet because I want to ask you one more thing. But Reid, real quick, can you please bless our audience since you brought it up? Can you bless them with your Mike Wazowski?
I can't. Not on the spot like that.
Oh, man. Well, for those of you that don't know, Reid has an absolutely spot-on impersonation of Roz from Monsters, Inc., and he says Mike Wazowski exactly like that character.
You're gonna have to bring me back for another fun impersonation episode or something later on. We'll just have at it.
Now, before I let Jake go here real quick, now, Jake, I do know you are one of the most interesting men in sport karate. You have been in The Accountant with Ben Affleck. You have grown one of the most gorgeous heads of hair that has ever been assembled in sport karate. I think that our audience would love it if in the coming weeks you would be willing to join us on the Jackson Rudolph podcast. Is that something that you can guarantee to our audience, Jake?
I believe I can guarantee it. I would have a blast looking at a bunch of old clips and stuff. It would be fun.
Cool. And hey, we may not even do a film study episode with you. We may just need to focus on like Jake's life story. You know what I mean? Like the making of Wild Card. And I think we have lots.
I'd be down, you know. I think we just have.
All right, let's give it 1 second to reconnect. For those of you that are listening right now, we're going to give Reid a second to reconnect, and I think we're good now.
Testing.
We're good. Carry on. So, Jake, you want to say that one more time real quick?
What was I saying?
That you will join.
Yes, I'll definitely join and talk about, my life story up until I've grown this long, luscious hair past my chin.
He likes to add the past my chin part.
I'm very proud of it. It goes past my chin, and I just think that's crazy.
Hey,
I don't think any other Presley has ever grown their hair. Males have ever grown their hair as long as Jake has. Maybe I can be proven wrong, but Jake Presley.
Thank you very much for the cameo appearance there, Jake.
Yeah.
All right.
So anyway, so you see Fetus Jake in the background of this video, and without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Reid, if you want to narrate your bow-breaking performance here.
I think I make it another couple seconds. I don't even know. I was gunning for Micah Carnes in this. I think he was doing the creative. Stephanie Figueroa was also in it, and somehow I managed to break it on like a forward strike. I don't even know. It didn't last very long, but you do see some of those movements that I did carry forward into my double bow form, like the tornado kick with the double stab and Kalmanchoka. But yeah, the best part of the video is going back and listening to your mom.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The other thing that I was going to say, and I'm just going to pull up back this screen as we go ahead and wrap things up here. The most entertaining part of the entire video, and this is on Eric Goldstein's YouTube channel, if you want to go and find both of those videos from Twin Towers Classic. When Reid breaks his bow, you hear my mom in the background at the top of her lungs go, "Reid!" And it is the funniest thing. So if you guys want to hear my mom say Reid's name at the top of her lungs, you'd have to watch that video. Actually, does she say Reid, or does he just say like, "Oh," or it's
I think it's like, "Oh, Reid," something like that. That's a whole other thing, and it doesn't exist, so we can't do it. But I can't say this is just me, but if you pulled, there's probably 5 clips, if they existed, 5 moments where I have done something in the ring to generate some sort of verbal response from the crowd of like, what the heck is this guy doing? So I think that I wish that those clips existed, because that's a whole nother thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Tons of great times. And just to wrap things up here, Reid, really appreciate you coming on the show and breaking down some old and some more recent sport karate videos. Any last words that you have for our audience, either inspirational message for, some of the competitors that may be watching, trying to draw inspiration from some of these videos, or just some closing thoughts that you might have?
Yeah, no, I think that first off, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, and I enjoyed it. And I just think kind of shedding light on this film study and going back, I think you and I both highlighted multiple times the value of going back and watching, because whether it's yourself or your competitors or your competitors' coaches, because you can always tell who trains who based on what they do. So going back further and pulling from just that vast safe, that treasure trove of content is just so valuable. If you're looking for inspiration and you don't want to straight up copy someone, but inspiration comes from somewhere, and you need to just see something, and then you can add your own pizzazz to it, right? So just do this all the time on your own. Film yourself. I always ask people, when you film yourself, you can always ask yourself, what can I do better in this form? You might feel like the form's maxed out, or that you've perfected it, which is never the case, but you might feel that way. You can always find something if you look at your own stuff, and you can definitely find inspiration from looking at others. So I think that is what I got to say.
Cool. Absolutely. Great words of wisdom there from Reid Presley. And yeah, thank you for joining the show. We really appreciate it. Hopefully we can have you back sometime. If you guys want to hear Reid back, either an episode just to interview Reid, talk about his career, or an episode to do another film study with Reid, or if you've got other guests that you want to come on and have me do film study with, please feel free to share those in the comments below. Reid, good luck with everything that you've got going on right now. I know, as a lot of our viewers know, you've recently taken a corporate position with Premier Martial Arts, which is extremely exciting, and we wish you the best of luck with that. And we look forward to maybe having you on the podcast sometime again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Be happy to do it.
Absolutely. So once again, for our audience, thank you very much to Reid for joining us. Thank you very much to our audience for tuning in. This has been another episode of Film Study, episode 21 of the Jackson Rudolph podcast. I'll see you next time.
Peace.